AVICI's Invector is a rhythm game made by Hello Games. Yes, that Hello Games. And of course, as the name implies, based on Avicii's music. And also, of course, we have to address that Avicii, the musician, sadly passed away back in 2018. But given that this game originally came out in 2017 as Invector on the PS4, then I think it's really not something I should take into consideration in the review, even if it does end up affecting it either way. And I won't judge the fact that they did change the name from Invector to Avicii's Invector after the fact, which doesn't sit right with me, or my skeptical side at least, but it could also be nothing. And also reviewed this on Stadia because, of course, I'm milking the 3 months of Stadia I have. Regardless, let's get into it. Starting as usual with a story, and this one is odd as there is actually a story and it's oddly disconnected. I think it's more trying to sell you on the world and justify playing the songs through the spaceship and also justify the different locations. But it's not like you really needed it. This is a rhythm game. And the story is like this. A girl traveling through space in a ship, and that's what you see in the gameplay. And what she wants is to get some chocolate, but instead she gets teleported to the wrong place. And so then the story is her trying to look for some chocolate whilst also the ship is constantly breaking. And most of the cutscenes are her fixing it and her making a comment about it. It's just so disconnected to the actual feel of the game that it honestly, to me, it just felt awkward. It's not a bad story per se, it's just kind of unnecessary and mismatched with the rest of the game. And adding to this is the progression of the game, as you don't have to complete the levels in the order they are shown in, and so sometimes you will go into a cutscene and just have a completely different song playing than the one you were playing just before. Honestly, I think it would have just made it a whole lot better if when you triggered one of these cutscenes, it just played the song you were playing before it. But yeah, to finish this bit off, it's fine, but my opinion really doesn't change whether or not this is in the game, I must be honest. Now let's talk about the actual gameplay. And honestly, you probably already know how most rhythm games work, but if you don't, let's go through the basics. In rhythm games you have to match button presses at the rhythm of a song usually. This can come in many forms in how the prompts are presented, but here is through the perspective of a driving spaceship through space as you pass through the various prompts. And in terms of how it plays, this one is for the most part like every other one, where it uses the face buttons on a grid with 3 rows, and here with how many face buttons it uses being based on the difficulty, and then the left shoulder button for the golden lines and also the hold prompts, which are also fairly common for the genre. I think the most unique thing here might be the rotation in the specific areas, where basically you'll just be able to rotate within this triangle to just reach some sort of button prompt, and also sometimes the prompt itself will be that rotation, so it really is just another addition to the regular gameplay. What might be more interesting then is the special abilities that you build up to by just playing well, I guess. And what it does is make the world go faster, or at least make it look like it is. Well, it's odd. Obviously, you still have to follow the rhythm of the music, and the music still plays at the same speed during these moments. And a hint you get on how this works is that you can see the world stretching depending on where you are on the map. So it does seem to be mostly just a perception thing, and you are actually going at the same speed, or maybe you have less time to react because you are going over them faster, even if the distance between them is the same for the sake of the rhythm. Regardless though, while in this mode you can make extra points, and so it does add a level of strategy for people who are interested in beating high scores. Personally, I'm not good enough at this type of games to be bothered with that. Now, final special feature here is the free flight mode, where you are not bound by the 3 space grids and instead can somewhat freely fly within a 3D space, while still being of course on rails, where you have to pass through hoops to keep the combo going. And while this seems like a fun time, it's honestly not, and mostly because it can just be annoying. And that's mostly because failing here or hitting an obstacle here will ruin your combo, and because of how bad the camera angles are, that ended up happening a bit too often, as I felt like I had to almost guess where I was, and I think it might be something to do with the depth perception as well. But it's not the worst thing in the world, and I think if they stuck to maybe better camera angles that favor gameplay over cinematics, then it could have worked. And it does end up being a problem that this game favors visuals a lot, but more on that later. Difficulty wise now, this game is nice. There's quite a few difficulty options to choose from, and you can change between them at any time during the game, and all of them count towards your progress. So from my perspective it seems good, but I'm not sure if the harder difficulties are difficult enough for people who are more proficient in the genre, but also I feel like that niche already has their own games, and this one is more for a casual fan base, and I guess AVICII fans. Now overall the game is good, it's very simple, and it's mostly propped up but also propped down by the visuals, as we are now going to talk about that with the graphics. And graphically this game looks good, it's not trying to go for realism or anything, there's a lot of neon lights, and it's a depiction of space that makes it look very flashy and colorful. But while there is quite a variety of locations, it's about one location for each 4 songs, and there are 25 songs, so make the math. It's 6, it doesn't quite add up. But the problem is, in the midst of all the neon lighting and the fact that most of the levels take place in the grid, then I would almost forget that I had changed locations aside from that moment before entering a stage where you can easily tell. The other disadvantage is because it's so flashy, it's sometimes easy to miss some of the prompts, especially the holds that you do with the left shoulder button. But overall, I would still say that the visuals are the one thing that really makes this game stand out in a positive way. But also, of course, as we are gonna talk about now, there is something else that probably attracted most people to this game, and that is the soundtrack. The most important part of any rhythm game, but also highly subjective, and especially when you introduce artists that are very popular or very public, and maybe even above that when the whole game is focused on that single artist. So do you like AVICII music? Do you like that electronic pop or EDM? Whatever you want to call it? Well, you will enjoy this game, and well, I don't dislike AVICII, and this game honestly made me realize that I have some nostalgia for a few of his songs, especially Levels, which was also a very memey song, and also there was that one Super Mario remix that was very popular amongst preteen nerds like me, and so that was a nice thing to revisit, and revisit it in game form. But also the rest of the experience was very hit and miss. I just don't enjoy this genre as much as I once did, and because you have to play every song to beat the game, it did become a bit meh for me. But this is a very easy for you to know for yourself if you will enjoy it, since you can just check out the song lists and see if you like it. And overall, that's really the straw that will break most camels' back, as you have to decide for yourself if you enjoy the music, and if you're a fan, And if so, then I think this is probably something you're going to enjoy since the gameplay is proficient enough. But then also, I don't think that the gameplay is going to be enough to swing you to like it or something like that if you're not a big fan of the music. But if you are like me and you're mostly lukewarm about it, then you might actually have some fun with it. And for that, I'm giving AVICI's Invector a 6 out of 10. It's a positive score, but it's not blowing anyone away, I don't think. Recommendations wise, I think I've spoken enough about who this game is for, but in terms of price, I would say wait for a sale, unless once again you get to play it quote unquote for free on Stadia, which by the way was a fine experience. I actually did not see any or many compression problems during gameplay, which is a nice surprise. Regardless though of your decision, I hope that you enjoyed watching, and if so, please consider subscribing and liking and commenting, all the things you can do for free here on YouTube. And regardless of that, I hope that you're having a good day, and goodbye.